Good morning, all. You're welcome again to my occasional videos on issues that concerns us as human beings. And today I'm going to be considering an important topic, and this topic is centered around community. It is a topic I want to visit here and there because this is the topic that concerns is a kind of a paradigm that has dominated this current dispensation that we live in. And the topic for today is gathering around prosperity. Gathering around prosperity. The concept of community sometimes is centered around gathering around prosperity. And it is a natural tendency for living organisms to gather around prosperity because they need to survive. They need to eat, they need to have shelter, they need an environment that will nurture life and not destroy it. And so prosperity, as defined by our current existence, is meant to sustain life. And so living organisms, human beings included, tend to gather around prosperity. And there are number increases, of course. And there are positive and negative implications of number because when people gather around prosperity, number increases. And so those issues arise. And the positive implications of number is that people can gather and create prosperity. Because human beings ourselves, we are a resource. We have something to offer in terms of energy, in terms of intellect, in terms of just mere presence. We have something to offer. When we're there, all these qualities that we have tends to contribute to create prosperity. So these are the positive implications. Also security, there is more security when people gather. They create and nurture a system that cannot be threatened. But there are also negative implications of number. And the negative implication is that when people gather, when number increases, resources are depleted. There's a continuous reduction in the availability of such a resource, especially when the gathering is primarily to harvest the resources that are available. And the resource continues. This is also a law of nature, that those resources will begin to deplete, they begin to reduce. And because of the reduction of these resources, crises may start. The confusion may begin, especially when there's an absence of government or government is not very capable. And so that is a major negative to the addition of number. Of course, security also becomes a problem. Sometimes, instead of the number contributing to added security, it begins to reduce the amount of security that there is. And so there are positive and there are negative implications. Another negative implication is disease, increase in disease. Sicknesses can come because of different habits, just because of that increase in number. Sicknesses can begin to develop, and it will become a minus to that community. And so you discover that there must be a balance of life. Communities sometimes are a result of people gathering together to do something great. Just not because there's any particular resource, but because of the absence of resource. People come and say, okay, because there is we don't have much around here, let us come together and do something. And that's what happened in the historical Babylon. It is said that people gathered and they began to build a structure that will make them popular, that will make them great. And there is a positive to that. Instead of just gathering because there's a resource. For example, in the Nile Valley. In the Nile Valley, it is the people gathered there just because of the existence of the Nile River. And the Nile River created a situation where this balance of life was naturally existed. And so it nurtured life. People could farm, people had access to fresh water, and so people gathered around that resource. And so these two factors are natural to human existence. People will always gather around one resource or the other, just because that resource exists. And also, people, because we are human beings, we have the capacity to try to create an environment where prosperity exists. Because we are human beings, we know that when we come together and we join forces, we can bring about prosperity, we can bring about greatness. And so this is how community is formed. And so there must be a balance of life. And that is the function of leadership in a community, of government. It is leadership, human government is there to ensure that a balance exists. And not just in human government, even animals do that. When they begin to gather and resources are depleted, conflict comes. And so they begin to spread around to reduce the pressure on such resources. But human government is capable of doing that at a more organized and more intelligent level, where people actually gather to philosophize, to reason out, to create that systematic process through which resources are shared, resources are created, and resources are sustained. And this is the value of government. And so if human beings are not able to sit and consciously sit down and do these things, you find that conflict will arise. Conflict will come up because there is too much pressure on the little resources that sustain such a community. And because the instinct normally kicks harder than reason, people will tend to gather around the resource rather than try to create their own resource. So if that is what is happening, then there will be conflict and there will be those negative results that will create disharmony within the community. And so this is what is at stake. And so a balance of life is important. There must be that balance in community between gathering around a resource and coming together just for the sake of creating a resource. And this is what I will try to delve into in a deeper sense. So to understand how we can mitigate or we can bring about this balance when being part of the community, we have to know the implications of being part of the community. It is a conscious decision. It is a conscious decision and not just an instinctive decision. It is a conscious decision when we are part of the community, when we feel that this thing is worth engaging in. Whether it is gathering around a resource or coming together to create a resource. If we do not do it consciously, we cannot achieve this balance. We cannot achieve, like in the animal kingdom, for instance. In the animal kingdom, there has to be conflict before the spread begins to happen. The lions may begin to eat up or destroy the hyena population, or the hyena population may be so strong that they chase out the lion population. And so there will be a spread within the lion community itself. The certain male lions will be chased out of that place so that they can spread around and go and look for their own resources. But in human community, if we do not engage community consciously, reason being our strength, we will not really be part of that community with any sense of responsibility to that community. So we have to understand that you are either contributing positively to the community or you are destroying that community. There is no middle ground in being a member of a community. There is no middle ground at all. If you are not contributing positively you will be bringing the community back. You will be destroying it. And that is the nature of the organism. And so there are certain needs of the community. Since we have agreed from the beginning that the communal arrangement is normally around a resource, we discover that if you are not consciously trying to create a resource, you are definitely depleting from it. And so if you are depleting from a resource without putting something back, then you become part of those who are destroying the community. So we must understand this. We must understand that if you are either contributing positively to a community or you are destroying it. And for that reason, in any community, there must be a consciously organized government. There must be. Without that community becomes like the animal kingdom, only based on experience, where crisis has to start before you know what next to do. Okay, so nature takes over. Okay, people have to be killed before they can be spread out. Disease has to come that cannot be handled before people disperse from that place. Or poverty has to take over before people begin to disperse. But when there is always a continuous process of conscious engagement to create government, to organize a community, philosophically and otherwise, you find that the community can easily be to organize and can easily mitigate against the effects of overpopulation that often arise. And how is this government created? This is what we need to take into consideration. We need to look at closely. Community is normally organized according to origin. It is very difficult for species from a different origin to coexist. It happens, especially in human community, but it is not naturally conceived. It has to be a very organized process of dialogue, of engagement with one another before that takes place. Community is also organized in terms of specialization. What do you do best? What do I do best? And when that is the best way in which individuals can contribute to a community and give it their best. If you are not good at something, you will probably destroy that thing. So specialization, knowledge, know-how. What are you good at? How best can you contribute to that community? Thirdly, social structure. And social structure is when you talk about families, male, female, families. The gender debate is a complex debate these days, but naturally, the male and female have a way of organizing themselves and creating families for sake of procreation. And then we have youth groups as different from elderly people. Children have their own arrangements educationally, and so on and so forth. Then you have physical development. Where are the houses located? Where are the farmlands located? Where are the industries located? Do we need roads? Those things are done by organizing, having some form of government, whether at the village level or at the city level. And then finally, economics. That is also related to specialization. But economics is not always based on specialization. It's based on labor requirements. It's based on trade. It's based on the availability of such resources. Where are they located? How can it be organized? How can people get to that place? How many people are allowed to be in a particular location at a particular time where economic activities are taking place? And that has implications for security and all those things. So security is also an issue when organizing a community. And so these are the things that we must be concerned about. And without a very detailed analysis and discussion in these issues, knowing the positives and the negatives of gathering around a resource, knowing how communities should be set up, knowing our duties as part of a community, and knowing how government is created and sustained. Without these, we will be planning to fail. We will be creating a system where slowly resources will be depleted and there will be chaos. And we see that happening in our world today. The world population is well above 8 billion. And without a conscious decision, not only by individual governments, but by world governments, to be able to make decisions as to these, there will be chaos. Yes, now trying to round up on these issues. I just talked about the nature of our world today, increasing population. This increasing population is being affected by the climate crisis. The population itself is depleting the resources in the world because of human activities, of course, industrialization, bush burning, the increase in the population of animals that are not grazing. All that is creating a climate crisis. So what do world governments do? What should world governments do? Wars all add to the climate crisis. What should world governments do? When you listen to the media, especially those who make films, they are already talking about these things. People have written and saying, trying to imagine a world in the future, because human beings are creating new things. They are beginning to surpass expectations. Some of these expectations are considered positive, some are considered negative. Issues like cloning. We are already so populous. Why do we need to clone human beings? Issues like AI. Why do we need to create something? Human beings are already very intelligent and they are dangerously intelligent. Why do we need to create another intelligence that will surpass that? You know, the space race. You know, what do we need to go to space for? What if we bring down a disease? What if, are we even able to visit any new place? Mars is difficult to visit. The moon is difficult to visit. These are the issues that are coming up. And so, what do we need to do? Religion is an issue. Does religion have the answers that we need? Does it not? Issues are coming up. And without a conscious decision to sit down and to think and to discuss about these issues, you will think you really have the answers, while you do not. Myself, I have been a pastor for many years, and for most of the time I have always said that religion is the answer, especially my faith Christianity, that has foreseen some of these developments for up to like 2,000, 3,000 years. Some of these things have been prophesied, that the world, the human community will grow and become like this. But the problem is that the gathering of that human beings do not naturally understand or accept these things. Even if it is prophesied, even if it is known that things will happen, human beings don't readily accept these things. We tend to want to behave like animals more than human beings. Even though such religious books like the Bible has said that we are created in the image of God, that means we should be able to conceive these things. And yes, we are creating wonderful things like technology and all whatnot, but we are still not able to mitigate against these prophetic pronouncements of a coming doomsday. And so some people believe that we should rather reason it out, and when we reason it out and we can project and say this is going to happen, and we may not be able to stop it from happening, but we can create a civilization where reason surpasses instinct and there is continuity. And so this is what is going on, and I believe that as individuals we must continue to look closely and say what, and contribute our own quota. Some people react violently, quoting religious books, and so they react violently to the ills they observe in the developing human society. Others are not even religious, but they do that. We discover that it is not only religious people that can set themselves on fire or commit suicide bombings. Even people who believe in philosophy, people who believe are atheists, sometimes they do that. A man set himself on fire last year, not because he was religious, but because he was trying to speak against a particular belief system that stemmed from religious beliefs. You know, so these things are increasing in our society today. And so what do we need to do? The questions continue to increase. What do we need to do to help the situation? What is the solution to the problems that we face? When we look at this, we are able to come up with solutions. And I believe that this is one of the solutions that we have to look at. We have to know why community is formed, and what are the negative implications of community, increasing in number in community, and the positive implications. And when we look at these two, we are able to reach a balance. How do we create such a balance? Okay, and this will bring up issues like Planned Parenthood, like economics, understanding principles of economics and then putting them in place, and to bring issues as to education. When people have more information, will they behave differently towards an issue? Probably. And this is the issue. We must bring these things together. And this is where I want to stop today. I am David Njuchinke speaking to you today.